Hello everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Beyond the Board. Today's guest is gonna be talking about Yooka-Laylee, and having said that, I would say, how about you introduce yourself?
I can do that. Hello. My name's Hedweg. You might know me either under that name or as Freddy if you met me in real life. And I speedrun some games, for example, Yooka-Laylee, which we're gonna talk about today.
So, tell us a bit about yourself. How have you gotten into Yooka-Laylee speedrunning?
Basically, when I found out about Yooka-Laylee becoming a thing on the Kickstarter, I was massively hyped and I backed it, and I was excited until the day it released. And while I was regularly replaying the demo of the game, which was called Yooka-Laylee Toy Box, I found out online that there were people actually speedrunning that demo. It was just like a 6, 7, 8 minute-ish little speedrun. But it got me intrigued because I wanted to replay the demo more often, and it was just really fun for me to try to challenge myself and beat it better. So that was actually my first steps in speedrunning in general, actually. And it was really fun. I engaged with people, and then I ended up also running the full game when it released.
What is your favorite aspect of Yooka-Laylee speedrunning, and why is it so great?
I think my favorite point about Yooka-Laylee speedrunning is how open the worlds are and how many different ways you can route yourself through the different worlds. And that actually also will come in very handy for the bingo aspect of the game as well.
So how exactly did you get into Yooka-Laylee bingos?
Basically, our community for the game is rather small, so we at all times were trying to find new ways to enjoy the game, new ways to challenge ourselves playing the game and being able to interact with each other, because the people in the community really enjoy spending time with each other and with the game. So one day we thought, hey, there's this bingo thing, and I had experience with bingo from like the Super Mario Odyssey community, and as Yooka-Laylee is a rather similar game in terms of being a 3D collectathon and having very free roaming worlds, allowing for exploration and like very different approaches to routing, we thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool to just make a bingo board for Yooka-Laylee as well? So me and 2 friends from the Yuka community went on and did it.
What is it that you think makes these bingos so fun?
I think specifically that we have a lot of sequence breaks in the game that allow us to jump around between the 5 different grade levels of the game. In addition to the overworld being like a really fun hub that connects all of that we can just skip through like crazy. Basically making bingos rather unique. Like usually we'll have only the first 5 or 10 minutes that are sort of similar between runners, but then we really see the different possibilities of the bingo, of different things you can focus on collecting or you can focus on completing certain tasks. Yeah, stuff like that.
As you already said, there are different worlds, and I'm guessing there are goals that are for multiple worlds. So do you kind of have to like focus on, do I like unlock the next world now, or do I keep focusing on this world, or is there any way to counterfeit this? I don't know how to say it.
So yeah, the levels themselves are restricted by like you have to open them up with pages. Pages are the main collectible in the game that you get for fulfilling little tasks inside the levels, or you can find in like hidden spots and also in the overworld actually. Then there's moves, and you can buy moves from a character in the game for quills, which is the secondary collectible. So we get some goals based around, for example, buying moves. But we also have goals around getting pages, and in some occasions getting specific pages that will in the end again require moves, which for you need to collect quills, so you could maybe connect those with like quill goals and stuff like that. But to get a little bit more back to your question, we can skip around the hub. We can like from the start go to the very final level entrance, but we wouldn't be able to enter it because we'd still need pages to open up the level, which we would have to collect in another level before.
So there's no way to like directly go to the final world and do all the stuff in there.
Yeah, exactly. Like the final level, for example, to put it in context, there's 145 pages in the game. The final level, just to open it up, would need 12 pages. And then levels also have a mechanic where you can expand the level. You basically make the base level bigger, and that costs some additional pages again as well. So you always got to keep in mind how many pages you will need for opening up the levels you need to go to fulfill your tasks on the bingo board. And routing will often be sort of based around not having to get too many pages for it to not be valuable anymore.
What do you think that makes Yooka-Laylee bingo so challenging or engaging? Is it gonna be in routing or in execution or something else?
I think the key aspect is definitely routing in this one, just because of the openness of the overworld now that we're able to sequence break like the entirety of the overworld and even skip a few of the moves that we would usually be required to get along the game. But even inside the levels, one of the biggest points of critique of people when the game released was that the levels are too big and too open to some extent for some people. But that openness, that in some parts, let's say, yeah, like just the sheer size of the levels and how much stuff is scattered around different parts of the level makes it so that routing becomes even more important, because if you go from one point to another and then realize, oh no, I have to go back, can easily cost like a minute or something, which of course is something we would never want to take.
What do you think constitutes a fun and engaging goal, or one that you think will probably need some rebalancing?
Goals that kind of lead into each other, I think generally make for a good bingo experience, at least in our game. For example, like I started going into earlier, you need quills to buy a move, then you use that move to do a specific thing. But then there's other ones that are specific challenges that can add some sense of difficulty to the bingos for the reward of just getting a bingo square. That adds some sense of difficulty in like a risk-reward type of situation for getting a rather quick bingo goal that does have like a pretty high difficulty though. We have a few goals that include beating the final boss of the game, and that usually adds like 7-ish minutes to your time, and they are rarely ever worth it. We might have to rebalance those or think about kicking them out in a way. But yeah, those, for example, don't work too well and rarely get picked.
How would you say, is there any kind of barrier for entry for people who are interested in picking up Yooka-Laylee bingos? And do you have any advice for them in that regard?
Yeah, I'll be real. I think the entry for being able to fully enjoy a bingo would be to learn the basic tricks of at least an any percent with flight, but better a 100 pages run of the game. At that point, you'd be able to do enough things to really be able to maneuver around the overworld and do enough sequence breaks to really be able to create a working route for a bingo. It would not really work if you're not aware of the sequence breaks, I believe. But basically, yeah, as soon as you have a sort of alright knowledge about the game in general and those 2 or 3 tricks we do on the overworld to sequence break the game, there's really nothing stopping you from getting into bingo, I believe.
Do you think that, let's say, normal speedrunners could benefit from doing bingos in some way, especially thinking of runners who usually just run categories that may not explore the game to its fullest?
I can mostly speak for myself in this, because I only really grinded a long category of the game after I did bingo, and before I played bingo in the game, I didn't have really good knowledge of most of the game's collectibles and challenges and where everything was, and the routing of 100 pages, for example, which is a 2-hour category that completes like 70-ish% of the game. Whenever I tried to run that before doing bingo, I had really big problems with remembering the route, and whenever I would deviate from the route ever so slightly, I would get lost in the worlds and stuff like that, and bingo really helped me get a feel for orientation in the worlds way more than I had before.
How do you think that the community can further support bingos?
We've actually been thinking about different possibilities to do fun things with bingo boards. A lot of it hasn't really caught on too much, just based on the fact how small our community is. So everyone who would like to join, feel free to. For example, we thought about challenge type of things, including bingos, like a weekly bingo that people could actually take their time and route and not do as a live race, how you would usually do bingos in most cases, but actually take a bingo board and sit down and properly try and route that bingo board out. That I think is, for example, a pretty fun thing. But yeah, then in general, like any kind of testing of the bingo board is always greatly appreciated. Giving feedback on the bingo board, because yeah, it's mostly been done by 3 people and also mostly been played by the same 3 people.
Do you maybe have any anecdotes of bingo to share? Some funny things that maybe happened to you during a bingo, or just something that's unlikely to happen in a normal run, or anything?
The funniest things that happen to me is when I greatly underestimate goals. Sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, now I'm like only this many goals away from winning, and it's only like these small goals, they can be that bad, right? And then I end up realizing how terribly long those goals are and how I totally underestimated them when thinking about my initial route, and I have to backtrack into like all the levels and do stuff in them. Yeah, it doesn't happen too often, but when it happens, it's sorta ironic, because I'll be at a point where I'm like, I'm nearly finished, and then reality strikes back.
Any final words you'd like to say to the community? Where can people find you if they want to?
First, thanks for having me. I love being able to talk a little bit about Yooka Bingo because it's a rather niche thing. And yeah, everyone who'd like to get into it, definitely feel free to search up the Yooka-Laylee speedrunning Discord. You can find that on speedrun.com. Get in touch with us. We're always very willing to help people get into the game, and we will jump at you and help you more than you want. I stream on Twitch sometimes, unregularly. That's pretty much it though. The game is really good.
Alright, thank you very much hedweg for this interview. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Bird. Keep in mind that submissions for Bingothon Summer 2021 are currently still open. You can find more on our website at bingothon.com, and we'll see you all next month for the next Beyond the Board.